decisions here are made by majority vote, so that would take 3 out of 4. So we have 4 of us here. Um, we we can only decide within certain limits of what the ordinance allows us to do and what the main statutes allow us to do. We have to conduct ourselves the way we're told by the ordinance and the main statutes. So I just want to, it's not like we can grant all kinds of things. We're
Yep, that's
prescribed.
understandable.
Okay. If there are conflicts in the ordinance, which I'm not sure, as I've looked at things, it doesn't look like that's the case here. But we'd have to determine that, and then decide what to do about it, but I don't think that's gonna be the case here. We do have authority to look at this subject matter, and in particular, what the statute and the ordinance requires us to do is we listen to you and we'll ask questions perhaps and give our views and analysis. But the burden of proof is on you, on the applicants, your case. To prove this, in this case, we have 8 criteria that have to be met. Okay. And those criteria deal with the hardship variance, which is what you're asking for. Or not some, no, it's not the hardship variance. It's the we have so many. Let's see. It's practical difficulty, I think. Yeah, it's a practical difficulty variance. So there are 8 standards, and you have the burden of proof. Okay, so if you don't say anything and it's not, and there's no other evidence in front of us, then the burden of proof isn't met. Okay, for each one of these 8 criteria. So it just, that's an important concept here, and our authority is limited that way. In terms of there's a concept called standing, which is, do you have authority, standing, as the law calls it, to be in the first place asking for this? You've given us no evidence that you even own the property. There's no way we know that unless you give us a deed, for example.
Okay, I was unsure of that. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that.
So that I'm just giving you the overview here now
Yeah.
first before we even get into details, but this is an example of where, some people may have a deed, which is fine, that works, or they may appoint a representative, so then we have to have evidence of that, but here we don't know whether or not you own the property. The application, as I see it, and as you'll see as we go through, is not complete. It doesn't give us information that we need to make decisions, but that may change as we go through the process here. There's no site plan. There's no dimensions. There's no information that's provided really for these criteria and it's current at the application that you provide, right? You may have more information during the hearing, but there's just not enough in there as I see it looking at it. So what we'll do is go through. We have a little checklist, an all-purpose thing, and what we try to do is give you a decision tonight if we can. So we go through this checklist and we try to fill out our decision, and that's what this is. We try to fill out our decision as we go along. So we have here that it's, Adam Saunders and your address and so forth. You're in a zoning district that's residential. You haven't demonstrated any legal interest in the property, so that's here. Now, we could decide to continue with the understanding that you would provide us this evidence after the hearing, but we don't have it now, so we don't even know if you're the owner. So do you want to provide us a copy of the?
Yeah, yes, I definitely will.
Okay. Okay. So what you're proposing, and I've had this down here, is construction of a 40-foot by 32-foot garage somewhere on the property. Because again, the information you're giving us is just a Google map, doesn't show us the boundaries. Or we
A
just,
couple of them I thought had,
when you draw them in, but they're not, we can't tell. It's just you're drawing on a Google map. But again, we confirm some of that out. I'm just saying, we can't even tell what the coverage, what your lot coverage is. Or is this new information?
This is the deed to the property.
Yeah.
oh, thank you, Max.
We have these on file at the town office.
Okay.
Thank you.
You need to make a motion to accept this. Back.
If you wish,
I'll make a motion to accept this warranty deed in the package.
second,
Second,
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good. Okay. Um. Max may have some more answers to on the property.
I don't have anything more than the map that I was given, if that's what you're gonna ask.
Okay, yeah, good, all right.
Oh, is that actually the item? Or-
Well, the deed helps, but we still don't, we don't have a site plan. We don't even know where his boundaries are. We don't know where the lot coverage is at this point, any of those things. From,
I do have a GIS map that shows the lot lines, what the state has, but it wouldn't have any marking beyond just the house.
yeah. Okay, so that we,
I do have it, but I can go.
no, don't worry. I don't think that's gonna be enough for us. I mean, we just need the site plan, the location of the house, where it is now relative to the setbacks and all of that, and it's very hard to tell from the Google map.
I mean, Russ, can I interrupt for a minute?
Sure.
I mean, we do know what the tax map and lot number is of the subject property.
Yes,
And the town, Max, the town doesn't have that on record more specifically. I mean, you've mentioned the state, but like there is
Yes, we do have the tax maps in the back. I can go grab the blown up version. But
but it doesn't have like,
It
the
doesn't-
lot dimensions or anything like
No, it just
I don't
says
believe so.
it just says 1.7 acres
1.
and shows my lot number and my
it
address.
doesn't,
And we also have
doesn't
the
show
tax
where the
record.
house is.
right.
And actually, if you look on my deed is kind of weird. It doesn't actually give my true dimensions. It's all based off of my
right.
neighbors to the left, my neighbors to the right, my neighbors to the east, and the road to the west is what it's based off from, which really made me wonder sometimes
Yeah,
about certain lines and everything, but it was surveyed when I did buy it.
so you could have brought that survey. That would have,
I don't know that, I guess it would probably be in, yeah, I may have a copy of that. I'm not 100% sure. But I know for the lawyers, when I did purchase it, that it was surveyed.
yeah. So these are, I mean,
Yeah,
this is a problem.
sort of basic stuff.
But why don't we move along and then see what we can do with respect to that? So you don't have any particular, so it's a 40 by 32-foot garage somewhere on the property with a 40-foot setback. It's not really shown on the plan because we don't have a plan we can use.
Well, that's
It's shown on the Google map, maybe.
yeah, it's almost, I know it's not the easiest. I didn't know what was best. I've never dealt with this before, and I can't afford to hire a contractor to come in and do all this site plan and stuff. So I really just did the best of my ability by looking at Google Maps. I was going to initially use the tax map that I have, a copy of the actual tax map, But even trying to zoom in on it, it's very hard to get it focused. I found that it was easier to do it with the Google Maps. And you can see in the bottom right-hand side, I have the garage labeled as 32 by 40, and it's 40 feet setback from the road, 30 feet from my property line. One of my major issues is the septic and everything that is in the way from allowing me to go back a little bit. And then the other major issue is my whole backyard is nothing but uphill ledge with exposed ledge here and there throughout all of it. Uh, and for me to be able to even make a flat pad out there, I would have to be 15 feet in the air at the front edge of it to be able to get a normal size pad going, just because of the amount of uphill grade there is back there.
And that's sort of like, is the rest of the, like, are your neighbors in the same situation, that same areas?
Slightly, yes. I am unfortunately at the bottom of the hill. Hence the wetland on the left-hand side of my property where the wells are and everything. My neighbor behind me, he is actually at the crest of the hill. And he does have a couple garages, but they are right at the crest of the hill, basically, where it was a bit easier to make a flat ground area. Where my whole backyard is just nothing but uphill. And over to the left-hand side, it just turns into marshy, swamplandish. It used to be a bunch of cat nine tails there years ago, but they've kind of slowly died out. We just haven't had a bunch of rain in the last handful of years, so there's not so many cat nine tails there anymore, but.
Just some context for anyone who's watching from home. The top item you see, the map, this is what I was referring to a moment ago. It's just a GIS map with some lines done by the state, as well as 2-foot contour lines.
Yeah, yeah.
But it still does not show the lot dimensions or anything. And then the document beneath it is the copy of the tax card. Very least that would have the dimensions of the lot, but that only just show tax lot itself. It doesn't show any dimensions. So that's all I have for maps.
Do you have a copy of that geographical one? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe I'm done.
Is there a height to this garage?
Single story. The overall height would be about 20, probably right around 20 feet. No more than 24 at most. It all depends, maybe 20 feet.
Well, if you, the ridge pole is gonna run 40 feet.
Correct.
Okay, so you've got it'll be 32 feet deep. So that's 16,
Mm-hmm. And I plan on doing
45-degree pitch.
I'm gonna actually probably go with a 10-12, not a 12-12 pitch.
Okay,
Trying to go as low as I can, but still keep it rigid.
yeah, so that, however, the high the wall would be, on the front, you'd probably be adding 12 or 14 feet to that.
Be about 12 feet.
Yeah.
On top of my 8-foot wall, which was where I went with the 20-foot wall. 20 foot to the height of the
Okay,
ceiling.
so, yeah, it'd be, 20 or slightly more than 20.
That's why I was throwing the 24 out there, because it may, by the time you get your caps on and your shingles and everything, and it's hard to get an exact number off of that.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be higher than the house.
No,
Okay,
And just in terms of relative size, the square footage of the house is what?
it is, I believe it's about 1,000, right around 1,000 square feet. an older farmhouse that's, they're kind of narrower, even though it's L shaped. There's actually two houses that were put together about 100 years ago.
And your house, because it's been there for a long time, doesn't meet the setback requirements either, the current setback requirements.
Correct.
What about your other neighbors? To the right and left of you on the same street, their setback,
The neighbor to the right of me, their house is a little closer than mine to the road, not by much, so I'd say they're probably about 50 feet. My neighbors behind me, as you can see by this one, his garage is quite close to the road. He may be at 50 feet or so. And the house is a little further back, and then down across the street, Sarah's place, their house is fairly close to the road as well. Again, I'm on a dead end road. The speed limit is 35 miles an hour down through there, so traffic is very slow. I'm assuming that's partly why the houses were built so close anyways. A lot of them were back in the day.
Is there a, exception to the setback rule if, you can build a property? You know, if the primary building on the property is within the setback requirement. Some zoning bylaws, you know, allow an additional building to encroach on the setback as long as it's no further than, closer than the primary building.
Right,
Yeah,
no. There is, you can, but you still need permission, still needs to be a non-conforming use setback. Pardon the phone, it's just my phone.
Okay.
If you're making an addition to your house, as I understand the rules, even that
okay, yeah,
doesn't
that's what I'm thinking.
allow it, but it can, you can grant a variance on it, but it's not an automatic right. Where you
Right,
have
yeah,
a
yeah.
pre-existing non-conforming use.
Yep.
But otherwise, no.
yeah, and then, I mean, where I was going, is there anything in the ordinance, excuse me, that would provide some leeway if other homes in the community are similarly not within the required setback, and so like take some average of sort of some of the adjacent neighbors to figure out.
There is one of the criteria is, is what he's requesting due to the uniqueness of the property. And in this case, he's already said, well, yeah, everybody's got this, although some people don't have it as bad as he. Others are, situated as he's described, close to the road and so forth. So that's sort of one of the criteria we could certainly, we'll go down the list that you've properly raised. So that's good. Yeah. Okay. So why don't we jump into this? It's on page, we start on page 7 here. So there, like I said, there's 8 criteria. And again, it's you have the burden of proof. So the question we ask is, did you provide a sufficient evidence to meet your burden of proof in this first case? That strict application of the ordinance would cause a practical difficulty. Now, what that means is two things, that part of it. So it's like 2 parts of the same question. Did you provide sufficient evidence to meet your burden of proof that it precludes your ability to pursue a use permitted in the district in which the property is located? So you can't use it unless when you're under this practical difficulty one, that's one of the criteria, that you can't use it unless we give you the variance. So I haven't heard anything, but maybe others have. Because you're still living there, you're using it already. But maybe a garage somewhere on the property. I mean, for example, you're using the other side right now. You can see the driveway or
Yeah,
dooryard.
yeah, it
whatever.
only the driveway only goes in so far because of the well line and the wetlands. And then the uphill ledge, directly behind all of that. And I have, there's never been a garage on the property. There used to be a barn years ago. Um, but that was a rickety old structure on old timbers and whatnot. Um, but I have tried many cover it, the Shed City, Shed Logic type sheds.
Yeah,
Because part of my big problem is, I have a few vehicles, a classic car. I've got some other utility vehicles and stuff like that. And I've had a lot of problems over the years with mice getting into things, causing damage to them. And also just Mother Nature, it wreaks havoc on them, whether it's limbs falling, pitch or sap type of stuff. Um, and I have tried many, many different sheds, portable sheds and whatnots to try and protect them. But it's just, it doesn't happen. A lot of the coverets, the mice can still easily get into, and other rodents and animals, neighborhood cats and all of that get on my car. And they're only good for a couple of years for like weather-wise. That within 4 to 5 years, the material's breaking down, it's ripping in the winter time and stuff like that. So, I mean, I've spent already thousands of dollars just on portable type sheds that I was able to tuck here or there. I was able to be within 30 feet of the property line because it was a portable type of thing. But they just don't hold up and don't last. And that's why I'm really looking into investing into a real garage to be able to protect my belongings, my personal assets and property.
I mean, where did you situate those? Um,
Roughly right where I'm looking to build a garage.
where
so,
was the bar? I'm sorry, go ahead, Liz.
so I was just gonna say, I mean, I understand that they were not permanent structures, but, were they similarly close to the road? and
Yes.
Not within the 75-foot setback?
I was right around that, right in that same area. I was where I'm looking to build a garage. And that's roughly about where the barn was years ago as well, because there was kind of already a flat spot right there. It's at the bottom of the hill, close to the road. It was already kind of flattened out and everything. It was lightly used. It's always been lightly used as a parking lot type area type thing. Um, so I just went with that and started laying out, doing whatever I could to protect things. And unfortunately, they just don't hold up over time and don't keep rodents out and everything else.
Well, rodents are a problem
And I've tried for
in general.
years.
Everywhere. I don't know if
Yep.
the garage is gonna help.
Yeah,
you too
doesn't,
much
doesn't
with
help my
rodents.
door, my garage doesn't
It's
help,
gonna help you with the rodents.
but
but-
doesn't mean we can't try.
Right,
My garage-
exactly.
I think I'd have a lot better, I mean, be able to,
Pull them out.
right, right.
All right, so I'm still stuck on this one about, it doesn't preclude your ability to pursue a use permitted in the district. But we can move on and come back to that if you want to do that. Does it result in, the next criteria of the 8 is the strict application of the ordinance would result in significant economic injury to you. So you've testified now as to rodent damage and that sort of thing. And do you want to add anything more to that part of it?
There's really nothing more with this that I could do to protect my stuff.
So you have cars and things like that?
Yeah.
Let me get, what cars are you trying to protect?
I have an 85 Camaro.
Okay, so you got an 85 Camaro. And what else? Just so we know what's.
I've got a couple four-wheelers.
Uh-huh.
One's basically brand new and one's an older model one. I've got a 90 style pickup truck that I've restored.
Okay,
And I also have my new 2017 pickup truck. Well, new-ish, new to me.
yeah. Okay. Did you want to add any more to that criteria?
I've got tools and all kinds. I mean, that's one of my sheds that I have is full of mice and snakes and I've just got all my tools packed into it and they make messes of everything. I'd like to be able to have a garage to actually store my tools properly and keep rodents and snakes and everything else out of them.
Okay. Um. So the next, and I'm just going on, we can come back, but, did the applicant provide sufficient evidence to meet the burden of proof that the need for the variance is due to the unique circumstances of the property and is not due to the general condition of the neighborhood? So it sounded like earlier, a lot of the neighborhoods similarly affected, some less than others. But did you want to add, is it something you've added, you talked about a lot of it is wetlands, and I think it is other parts of the neighborhood, like uphill from you, it's not as much of a problem, right? That's what.
Wetland wise, it's not, but uphill grade is still an issue back there.
Okay,
My whole entire property all the way out is basically uphill grade.
Well, it looks like it runs from an elevation of 50 feet at the front to 70 feet at the back. On this,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. It seems like a lot more looking at it, but
Those topographical lines, you say if we correct the grade,
what did you say they were, Max, the topographical lines?
The orange lines are the 2-foot contours.
2 foot, okay.
Yeah,
you know,
And the dark green blob you see there are forested wetlands. And the light green is more significant wetlands,
Okay, okay,
I'm
good.
sorry, what kind of wetlands is the dark green?
forested. Or
Forested
Yeah.
wetlands.
that would be with a lily, the,
Yeah, yeah, and that's what Adam provided some photographs of.
mhm.
Mhm.
so the wetlands that he's described are represented by the green shading.
Dark green.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are recognized by the state. On this map.
yeah, these are from the National Wetland Inventory.
Thank you.
And it actually, that's a very good representation of it, but it also does come in towards my property a little bit more. They had to put quite a bit. I remember years back, they filled and filled to even just be able to get like the shed in there. They actually had to dump a bunch of gravel and stuff to really be able to get us any sort of a base over there. And just on the opposite side of my shed by my driveway, it's instantly goes really, really wet. But they've got it pretty good on this map here.
And this description, could you just better describe what you're calling a drainage ditch?
It's
And it goes in front of your house and
it's-
driveway?
from the wetlands. There's actually, I've got a 8-inch culvert. It actually used to be a bigger one. I went downgraded and trying to sink it down because it was always popping up through my driveway. But there's a culvert going underneath my driveway, and then there's a 2 to 2.5 foot ditch that's 4 feet wide that runs in front of my property to the road, and a culvert that goes under the road, and then it runs out through the neighbors and actually goes all the way down to the ocean. There's enough water that flows through it. It's very, very rarely that's dried up. The main reason I had added that in was not just to be able to see it, but to show that how much wetland that really is there and how much runoff comes down off of that hill and everything. And
So where is the culvert that you just described?
so it's right there. I could have put a dotted line or something, but it literally goes like, this is the wetland area. It goes right here and it goes right underneath my driveway right there.
Into the driveway?
Yeah, and then there's one that goes under the road right at the end of the drainage. And that's a state, that's a 12 inch or 14 inch.
Did you say the barn that was dismantled was in the general area that where you want to put the garage?
Yes.
And when was that demolished? Before
Uh,
you owned it?
yes, before I owned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the foundation of the garage. Basically, I mean, I'm just trying to conceptualize this, given the square footage of the house. It's one story, but, in terms of its dimensions, it's probably a lot, slightly larger footprint than the house itself.
Slightly, yes. And that's
Mhm.
basically due to the amount of things I have to store in it. Otherwise, I possibly could have gone a little smaller, but to have a suitable garage, that's even worthwhile, that is the square footage that I would need.
And the garage would be built on a slab?
Yes.
You mentioned earlier about not having a contract. You plan on building this garage yourself?
Yes. I did construction for years.
Well, the next criteria, and we can come back, we will come back to all of these, but we're just
Mhm.
moving along. Did you meet your burden of proof that granting the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood? And will not unreasonably detrimentally affect the use or market value of abutting properties of your neighbors? So would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I don't see that building a garage there would be of any detrimental effect to the neighborhood, and if anything, it would only improve the market value um of my house and, in a sense, the neighborhood, just from growth of. Most of my neighbors have garages, or a couple of few garages. Some of them are big barns, and um and a lot of them are actually quite closer to the road. Of course, a lot of these structures have also been there for 30 years or more.
Yeah.
I believe before 05 is when they had changed the setback laws, and I believe before that it was a 25-foot setback um down through that road especially.
All right, next question is, on the question of, is this practical difficulty a result of something you did or some prior owner did? So you need to, you have the burden of proof of showing that the practical difficulty is not the result of action taken by you or the prior owner.
And the main practical difficulty I have is the uphill grade behind me, and that is due to Mother Nature. And the wetlands to my other side, but the uphill grade is truly my biggest issue.
Is there, anybody have any more questions yet on that? Okay. Next one is, there's no, is, you have to show that there's no other feasible alternative. I mean, like blasting the ledge or any of that.
No, I couldn't imagine the cost of blasting ledge. I know they did it down on the Ice Pond Road, and actually, I believe I've got a little bit of my foundation. A lot of it's old field stone.
Yep.
Part of it has been redone with some cement and actual footings and everything. But I've noticed a lot more where I'm at the bottom of the hill. I get a lot of water that drains in, and they were blasting down on Deaver Road, the Ice Pond Road and everything years back with some of those. And I noticed some movement in my foundation and everything. So not only would I probably not dare to blast that close to my house, but the cost of it as well would be outrageous.
Um, Other feasible alternatives, could include, building it on the other side. It would be a smaller garage, or even building it where you're proposing, but setting it back some and having it a smaller garage. I mean, that's what occurs to me.
With my leach field, my septic tank itself,
Yeah,
is right beside my house there, and I have to stay 10 feet from the leach field or from the septic tank itself. Um, so to stay 10 feet away from that, it wouldn't get me any much further away from the road if I got closer to my septic tank. Uh, and if I shorten the garage to try to even get close to like the front of my house to my septic tank,
yep.
I would end up with like a 16-foot garage, and you can't park a 20-foot vehicle in a 16-foot garage.
And, I'm still confused about the other side. I mean, I see you use that. I see from
The,
this Google, you've got some kind of covering or temporary.
there's
storage.
a little shed there.
Yeah,
My well is also over there with the well line that runs over. The well line actually runs basically just along the front edge of that shed there and into the side of the house.
Is that a portable shed?
No, that is a little stick built 8 by 12.
Okay, and did you build that or?
No, that was
Okay, that
there
was-
previously.
it's hard to tell the dimensions. You say that's an 8 by 10,
8 by 12.
8 by 12.
And there are also 2 hand dug wells on the property. One of them actually used to be, the one that's out by the road. It was very old. It was from when Back Cove settlement was a thing, like Back Cove, like back in the 1800s, early 1900s, and that was the well that the whole town used to pull water from.
Ah,
Is that leach field sitting up on ledge too?
It is at about the top of the hill, and they had to put a massive mound. It's up on the top of the hill. And then in that one little spot, it's slightly flattened out a little bit, and that's where they decided to put the leach field. And I don't even know actually that I'm 30 feet from my property line on that one. I think that one is probably more like 15 foot, because when it was put in, I'm sure the rules and regulations were different. That was back in the early 90s.
Talking about the back of your property line.
Yes.
And that structure that we see on this Google map,
That is an old picture, and that is another portable shed. That is a 8 by 12 portable cover it.
that's this here?
Yes, yep. I had that set on top of the leach field. I had my four-wheelers in it. Trying to keep the mice away from them.
So, the function of the leach field is involved in your wastewater?
Yes, I have a septic tank and then a pump tank that
Okay.
pumps uphill to the leach field
Okay, yeah.
due to the nature of the property and the uphill ledge that they had to deal with as well back then.
And, so again, using this map, you can't build the garage behind your house?
No, it's uphill ledge at a pretty steep rate. Looking at their map, it almost looks about right, but when you stand in my backyard, it seems like there's a lot more than 6 feet they're showing roughly 6 to 10 foot within 20 feet, and it seems like it's all of that and then some.
Just looks flat there where behind the house, what I think is,
is that what you were trying to show us pictures of?
There's a picture of it.
Or these,
Yes, yeah,
I mean.
that's
it-
the ledge
it was
around my
hard to-
house
It
and
was really hard to, this area here, is
Yep,
that what we're
that's-
talking about behind your house?
yep, and it's hard to tell in that picture, but from actually where I was
Mm-hmm.
standing to like the top of the hill there, it's gotta be 15 to 16 feet of elevation
Right, but what's
easily.
the distance we're talking about
Um,
relative to the size of the garage? you
That
have?
is probably about 50 to 60 feet from where I was standing. I was standing at roughly about where the garage would have been when I took that picture, and then that was the hill behind there. You know, pictures usually don't do justice, really.
And this structure,
That's another shed out back,
and where is?
another 8 by 12 shed.
Right. and
That was there previously.
Where is that relative to this picture? It's
That,
not this shed?
nope, it would be right in this tree line
So
right
it's up
down in
here.
here, yep. I built that when I was a teenager. I bought my mother's house. In which she bought off of her father.
wow,
My grandfather bought it in '65.
well, it just seems like that back area is somewhat suitable. Not for, not for a 32 by 40.
And I would also, I don't know how I would get a actual driveway out there. Between the well and the well line and the septic tank. And truly even there, I think I see where you're talking, like directly behind the house,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
There's still quite a bit of uphill ledge there. Some of it is there's some parts of it are sticking out of the ground 1.5 to 2 feet or so. Other of parts of it are flush with the grass level and everything. It's not fun mowing the lawn. Um, I don't know where exactly or how I would get a driveway in that is cost effective, and then the amount of fill I would need out back, I would be then creating a even more slope of pushing the water down into my house.
So to the right of as you're facing the house from the road. And you've got the septic tank. And then to the right of that, that's another shed.
That brownish thing and the
Yeah.
blue thing over there, that brown thing is actually a trailer I had. I had an 8x24 snowmobile trailer. And then the blue thing was a Camaro, another vehicle I had. I've actually gotten rid of a couple of vehicles just because of some of these issues I had, and I kept my baby, my good one.
Yeah,
And that's, I'd really like to be able to protect it from everything.
And would you happen to know approximately this septic pump area, yeah, that you're
Yeah.
talking about? How far is that from your property line to here?
From my property line, it is about 60 feet. I've already thought about
Like
if I,
Changing the
if I,
orientation
right,
of your garage and
but with the,
and still making the clearance with your other property line and clearing your septic pump.
by the time I'm 10 feet away from the septic pump and everything and 30 feet from my property line, I end up with about 16 feet wide. Which is not enough for,
So you can't sort of fit in the,
I'm looking to
30
build
feet.
basically it's just gonna be a 2-car garage, just a really good sized 2-car garage, so I could fit a couple other vehicles in with it. If you build it just right, you can sneak other things in as well. Because the garage doors are very expensive. I'm trying to do this cost effective. I don't have tons of money. And garage doors are extremely expensive for decent ones, and I want something that's tight. I'd like to try and keep things as protected as possible, so I'd like to buy decent garage doors. And I've got 3 vehicles, multiple 4-wheelers, plus tools and other things I'd like to keep in there. So a 16-foot wide garage, you'd barely be able to you'd get 1 vehicle in a 16-foot wide.
So right now, where are you keeping those vehicles? In this area over here?
I park my regular daily truck here because it's my front entrance of my house, so I'm in and out on that side. My Camaro, as of now, I believe it was even in one of the pictures. Is I move it around the yard depending upon where I'm mowing and everything. Because of mice and everything, they just keep getting into it. So I keep trying to move it every time I mow to different locations. Uh, yeah, you can see in that picture, there's my red car out there.
Right, so you kind of have it parked in that area almost behind your house.
Yep, and actually a lot of times I would keep it down where I planned on building the garage. And I would just shuffle it around here or there a little bit. Um,
It
it,
looks like that whole area is cleared already.
yep, well, what it was roughly flat in there anyways, right off of my septic tank. It tapered right down. There was a piece of plywood with some 2x4s drove in the ground for a retaining wall. Because in that corner of my house is also where the exhaust for my furnace comes out, right by my pipe from my septic tank. I wish I'd taken a picture of that. Well, I needed to redo the retaining wall, so I figured why not do it right? So I dug that little bit out, and after talking with Mark, I'm able to do a 4-foot retaining wall from the bottom of the footing to the top of the wall without a building permit or anything. So I just dug that out to be able to get to that. And while I was there, I just scraped a little bit of grass around. You can see it was almost kind of flattish in that area anyways, basically.
And right now that this tree still exists or
Yes, yes, it does.
so?
But that was something that
Mhm.
was planted when I was a teenager. My stepdad planted a couple trees there. Pine tree. I hate the thing. It's always jumping pine needles all over my car too.
Was the barn on the site,
Yep. Yes, it was.
dismantled before your grandfather owned it?
No, no, it was dismantled while my grandfather owned
Okay.
it because it was basically falling to pieces.
Right, and
And that's why there was, I'm assuming, kind of a flattish spot over there anyways, was
Mhm.
partly due to the barn.
do you have any idea what the dimensions of that were?
I would roughly guess it must have been 20 to 24 by probably about 32. It wasn't a massive barn, but it was still a decent sized barn.
Okay.
And it was actually facing the other direction. It went depth wise a little bit there. And they tore that down. I believe part of the reason of tearing that down came later on when they did the septic tank. Also to do with the condition of it. Because my mother remembers going there when I was first a kid going there, we had no septic, no running water. We carried water from the well and used a bucket.
So I can't connect pictures with the Camaro in them to the Google map. Is the Camaro, it's behind the house, right?
It is more just adjacent to the side corner of the house.
Where's your septic thing? Your septic pump?
My Camaro, it's right beside the Camaro. That actually, the ball of plastic you see there is sitting on top of the well, the septic pump tank, and the main tank is just in front of it. You can actually right behind the corner of that black car, you can almost see a little bit of concrete there. That's my son's car. And my property line, you can see the power lines over there. I'm actually just in towards my side of the property line. The power lines are just onto the neighbor's property line. So 30 feet in would put me past these cover it, the small one that is disassembled there with a four-wheeler under it, and 10 feet away from the leach fields bring you out to the basically about the driver's front corner of my car. And you can see it really only leaves about 16 feet or so of width there. And 75-foot road setback is actually only about 3 feet in front of my septic tank. So I would literally have to be up on the hill to even try to be behind the initial setback.
And these cones that you have in the picture, were they marking anything?
That
special?
means the garage. Yep.
That,
I was trying to get a rough layout, eyeballing things and see what it would look like, and I had no idea initially that the road setback was 75 feet. I always thought it was 25 feet until I came in and talked to Mark about that. Found that out quick. Went, oh boy. But yes, I was just doing a little bit of measuring and laying out to see what would work, and placing a couple vehicles around to see how they really fit. Um,
So those don't look 40 by 32.
No, the one on the left-hand side near the black car, that was actually gonna be like where one of the corners of the door. The two on the right-hand side, that is the 32-foot depth I would go. That would be the right side corner. And I am just at about 30 to 32 feet from my property line at that side. It would go over towards my house just to the other side of that tan black car there.
On the next page, you have a slightly different picture of the sunset.
Yep, yep, I am actually just on the edge of the road there at that one.
So here's the road.
Yep. So I figured you could get a road view of it. You see the couple cones in the middle. The other cone is actually underneath that shrub in the left-hand corner of it. It's hard to see, but it is buried in there. In which is being, was a beautiful shrub tree that is taken over by them vines that are growing everywhere that kill things. And you can see from that picture, especially the nature, the flattish area that was already existing there. And you can also see my four-wheeler on the trailer.
Another, question is, if we grant the variance, will that unreasonably adversely affect the natural environment? Looking at the pictures here, it doesn't look like it's gonna make any difference. to
No,
me.
not at all. It's already pretty naturally flat there. And with the retaining wall that I'm going to do, along the septic tank will actually provide a better retaining wall and, allow me to do a little bit of work with a little bit of drainage around the back side of my house as well. Because as of now, the ground on the back side of my house is a lot of the ground in that area has settled down over the years, just a little bit. I drive on it with my vehicles with firewood and stuff like that. And the water is actually, a lot of it is running right directly into the back of my house. So when I was digging a little bit there, I actually, my old deck that got tore off, in the back corner of my house is where the water kind of funneled. I built that up a litto bit to trying to make a skirt and to push the water around my house so it doesn't go through and down through my basement. But it is not an easy task.
And we know for Mark, it's not in the wetland zone, right? It's not in the shoreline zone.
No.
You know, when you purchased the property, the attorney, there was a survey,
Yes.
and did you see a copy of the survey?
Not to my exact knowledge. It may, I may have, it might be in the big old packet that I have from the attorney. It was Cohen and, I can't remember the exact name of the surveyor, but I know it was Mike Dostey. He actually worked for the company, a guy I went to school with.
Well, I mean, but if you could get a copy of that and, maybe have the same surveyor come in and, delineate where on the, property the house is. That might help us.
I know I've roughly got 200 feet of road frontage, says a lot of my tax information that I have and everything. But otherwise, looking at not only just the Google Maps, but this map that Max came up with is that based off of a Google map or?
So those are ArcGIS, from the state of Maine's office.
Say they
That's
look,
based on what we have, but This is more of giving an idea. It should never be used as like. if the
Right,
survey
I'd say
exists, You should use the survey, but this just gives you a.
I'm
broad-
not sure that I have an actual survey map per se, but I know it was surveyed, but I can definitely look through the paperwork that I have and bring that in for you guys to see at another time if needed.
And Cohen's deceased and, his office is shut down.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, look-
He wouldn't be a source. so.
Looking at,
Well, Sam probably did it, right? Sam Cohen. did it.
yes,
Jim, I see.
senior, I believe it was.
Yeah.
He was the older man.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been his son. It was a little, like, I think. Most.
I have a quick question about, you mentioned this. Grandpa's garage existing on the property at some point in time, but in any of these pictures submitted, is there any evidence of that garage there in these pictures?
No, there would not be.
So.
The barn that was there, you're
Yeah.
talking, the pre-existing barn?
They leave any kind of. Like, did you have a family photo book from way back when it used to be there? and,
No, nothing that I remember. As I was a I was a little kid when that was tore down.
There wouldn't be super old records in the town, Max.
Um,
That predates, like, you know, like when his grandparents,
for building permit, or when the
well,
shed was there.
that
Yeah, probably
describes,
when that. I
that
bet they
describes
did
the
that.
property and what existed on it.
I don't know, Daryl's probably not in the office until next week.
I don't think he would have anything either,
No.
because usually if it was taken off the map, the tax card would only show what is existing on the property.
Yeah,
So
like
I
The
can pull
copy-
the tax card if you.
no, I've given them a
Yeah.
copy of the tax card,
If
and
it's not on the tax card,
then
then
they don't have it at all.
You have no remnants of a
Well,
foundation.
the house.
No, no, it was
wasn't on the
nothing. It-
tax card.
It was on
Well,
some
the,
rocks.
But you have a backup, I know this.
There's a back to the tax card, I just didn't make a copy of it, well, not what you have, I didn't make a
Yeah.
copy of the back, that just shows the dimensions of the building, it doesn't show
Where,
the dimension, yeah.
Placements, no.
yeah,
Right, and the barn was, I was either late eighties, I think it was late eighties, early nineties when that was removed.
And some people would have done surveys, but we're not required to get a copy of the survey.
Sure.
Someone privately does it, and unless it's a subdivision,
yeah.
some people hold on to the survey and just take it with them and don't leave a copy with us. So we're kind of out of luck on those types of situations.
And if there was a garage that was sort of more attached to the house, does that change anything, or is that even feasible, given where your septic pump is? You know, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go back to the ordinance myself and. And it's an attached structure as opposed to a detached structure.
I'm hoping to keep it detached, but if attaching it changed anything, that could always be a possibility, but I'd rather it be detached.
I just can't, we can't, our problem is we can't visualize, my problem. I can't. I can't see exactly where that garage is gonna be, other than how you've more or less drawn it in. I don't know. What the real distances are.
That is all to actual scale as well. My drawings are to scale. It's 5/16 per 20 foot.
So Russ, are you saying that besides having Adam here, sort of with his hand drawn Google Maps, version of his property, if he came back with a third party's, like a third party's rendering of his property
Yeah, I think I mean, you
with all
don't,
of this, sort of staked out and,
just having a hard time seeing how, you know, we have your testimony, but then I'm looking at this and I'm saying, it seems to me if you could, you could put it around back, it looks to me, from what you've presented. From these pictures and photos and the Google Maps, rough as it is and all that, it looks to me, and the GIS stuff, like you could put it round back. It also looks like if the garage were smaller, you could move it back some and have it at least in line with the house, the front of the house. So I'm just I can't see what and I hear what you're saying. You've used a scale, but the property lines aren't even, right? Those are your, good faith, reasonable estimate of where the property line is. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying,
And that's going off from Google Maps and I did scale it off of, because I've got the tax map too with my property line here. And I scaled that and it is off of, I guess you would call it a good faith, but I'm pretty good at scaling things and I used to do blueprints and stuff like that when I was doing construction, so it was part of what I did.
Well, I think if you could, find the survey and, make a copy of it and, indicate, where the house is and where the other, the septic tank and whatever.
I don't know that the survey showed all of that. All I
No,
know,
but
they
mean,
did
if
the
you could just
initial
sketch it
property
out, yeah.
line. Oh, okay, I got you. Use that as an actual survey for a map to go off
I
from.
mean, if you just,
But then I'm still it ain't gonna look much different, but I can do that definitely.
so I think what you can hear what we're dealing with. What we're trying to do is we're trying to sort of piece it together.
Right, and have,
Because you haven't provided us with anything that sort of, wraps it up nicely, has everything laid out for us. As an example, when I started looking into this, like I started looking online and went into Zillow apps, saw a picture of your house, saw what what the square footage of your house was, how big your property was to begin with.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't in your packet. It's a matter of, it's really not our job to cobble all of this
yes,
evidence
yeah, I understand
together.
that.
But it sounds to me like, with some more effort on your part, you could do a better job in putting this all together for us. So that we have a better understanding, like,
and, from what you said, the area right behind your house, there's ledge, I mean, and a lot of which doesn't show up in the photographs because it's covered with,
with grass.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
like, look, the
yeah,
pictures.
no,
Yeah,
I see
yeah,
that.
but it doesn't really like.
show
spatially-
placement and
It's only, it really only shows 2 dimensions.
and then the garage itself, as you've drawn it on the Google map. Garage is bigger than the house, but it doesn't.
Oh, it will
but
be bigger than the house.
Yeah, but it doesn't show up, when you're looking at it here on your Google map drawing, it doesn't look like the garage is bigger than the house. It looks like the garage is smaller than the house. So it just like, well, that doesn't, see what I'm saying?
the
house-
square footage of the house is off-putting because of the structure of that is the house being in an L shaped,
Yes,
is what makes it smaller square footage where it almost leaves a bigger square footage.
And it's 2 stories, right?
Yes,
It's a
and it-
2-story home,
yes,
so you've
correct.
got a tad
A
under
story and a
1,000 square
half.
feet distributed in an L-shaped structure with 2 stories, and this is a 32 by 41.
Yes, one story.
But square footage wise, his garage will be bigger than his house.
The footprint, yeah.
it'll be shorter, but the footprint, will be larger.
Yeah, and so it doesn't. If the first floor is, let's suppose the first floor and the second floor are each 500 square feet. Because you're saying it's 1,000 square foot house, so let's.
And they have me on a story and a half. I don't know how that really works, or because my upstairs is all tapered in and everything.
Yeah,
So they call it a story and a half. I probably did not write the dimensions of the house down. Yes, I think I do have a map. I think I have something actually either from the realtor or whatnot that does show some of the dimensions of the house. And because one part of the house is 20 by 24 and the other part of the house is 18 by 22. And it's kind of a narrow, it's just where they've both been put together.
850, 900 square feet.
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean, the real estate app had it under 1,000 square foot.
Yeah, I think that's like
970.
960,
In the main
970,
part of the
correct?
house, are there rooms upstairs?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
so the footprint. If you count if you say it's 2 stories worth of 1,000 square feet, then you got 500 square feet each floor. And then the proposed garage is gonna be what?
1,200.
1,200.
12
Just, yeah,
all
just
on one
over.
floor. So it ought to be twice, at least twice, more than twice as big footprint as the house is.
Is that an issue with the footprint
Well,
size
what I'm saying
comparison
is-
or?
Google Map doesn't show.
Oh, it's,
That's what I'm trying to say. Google Map looks like
Yeah.
the footprint
I
is
mean,
smaller than the
provided
house
us with the
footprint.
dimensions of the
And it's
house.
gonna be
I mean,
more
it's
than
hard to
twice the
visualize
size of the
because it's
house.
so big.
Well, I think the problem with the Google Maps photograph is that there's a shadow behind on the backside of the house, so it makes it look bigger.
yeah, because there is an addition on the back corner too. I don't know.
Yeah, just a quick benefit to the board. I did pull up the tax card and showed the dimensions. of the house that's there.
Yes, I knew there was something
Uh,
somewhere.
The house right now is 948 square feet. And the little addition that you see in the back right there is an additional 238. So this is short of 1,200 square feet.
Okay, so it's about the
I
same
can see
footprint.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's what I have.
You'll give the dimension.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm actually-
I can make copies.
Yeah, because I was gonna just take a picture of it, okay.
I didn't know if,
Okay, yeah, good.
I guess I didn't bump that addition on the blue one there.
Okay, yeah,
I squared
This-
it off.
The garage is gonna be 32 by 40,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
the frontage, if you add the front, that dimension, and that dimension, it's 52 feet altogether.
Right, it does have a big footprint
right, so,
overall. It's just the shape of it
Right.
makes it not look
That's
so.
what
so the road facing, footage
Okay,
is larger on the house than it is on the, on the 40-foot
garage.
garage.
if we could have,
I can make you copies.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for helping.
I know for a fact that the house is really, it's offset only 59 feet from the road.
Yes, yep.
And again, if, I mean, almost short of driving down your road and looking at it. I mean, all your other neighbors are gonna be also, not, right now, similarly aged homes that don't meet the 75-foot setback.
Yes,
from the
correct.
road.
Yep. And without a doubt, I'd say some are even probably a little closer than mine even.
if, if you could, I think it would be helpful to us, or at least to me, if you, could get the survey.
Yep.
And locate these things on the survey, and also, provide, a better picture of the issue of the ledge behind the house.
Yep, I will try to do that. I know it's hard to get a 3-dimensional picture out of a 2-dimensional picture type of thing, but I will do what I can to try and take some better quality pictures.
Thank you.
So it sounds to me like your pleasure is to have another,
Yes, another,
is to adjourn the meeting
Yeah.
and do another time.
Sounds fine to me. We can get the sufficient evidence that's necessary to review it, so. Because you do realize we're kind of a quasi court, so like, the evidence has to be kind of official.
Hmm.
So if we're all basing our decisions on handmade drawings and Google Maps and all this stuff, it's kind of, we're kind of going out of the box. So.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
almost-
sorry for that.
No, I mean, it's just, it is what it is, and I think in order for us to make a rational decision, it would be based on actual fact of, things that are represented as clear and convincing.
Yep.
And it's not that we don't believe you, and you've given this a lot of thought, but what Russ said at the very beginning, the burden of proof is all yours. And, you need to provide some concrete evidence for us to take a look at.
Yep, understandable.
I mean, we can't operate on presumptions.
Yeah, I never even thought about the actual survey type thing, and hopefully I have one.
You probably do, yeah. Sounds like you recall one, so you probably have.
I know I have a
In
big
that big
packet
hole.
of everything, yeah.
You never want to look at it.
And I know right where it is in the filing cabinet too, so I will be digging through that tonight.
So we'll adjourn meeting for additional evidence.
Now, just one more thing, Russ.
Yes.
I'm also hearing like two things about the wetland status of this property. One, last time we saw, you provided us a map that showed it wasn't officially considered wetlands. You provided like a town,
Could be, I don't recall.
you came
that,
in
but-
and you
Big
said it
shoreline
isn't
zone.
officially
Oh.
wetlands.
Yes.
But
Oh.
yet there's this thing that you provided, which outlines a dark green area that's consistent with what Adam's describing. We've also heard Adam talk about how, I guess the town has a culvert going in front of his property under the road.
I will
He's
be
got
taking a picture of
culvert.
that as
He's
well.
got a culvert. So if there is a culvert under his road draining sort of his property, I'm assuming that's the town. Does the town have a record of that? That also adds some evidence to the true nature of the wetlands
I can ask the public works department about that. They should.
yeah,
And to the wetlands, I can't 100% agree with, well, I don't know what Mark showed last time.
I think it was a shoreline zoning, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that might be the case. That's
But
what I would
there
assume.
would be nothing on the shoreline zone map,
Yeah,
Right.
correct?
that
Yeah,
wouldn't
and-
show the forested wetlands.
Yeah, there's so the wetlands that Mark was probably showing you were sensitive habitats that are in resource protection zones, and those
Okay.
are marked in our shoreline zone.
right,
These ones that you're seeing here on that map,
yeah,
that's something that's identified on the national wetland scale, which updates a lot more frequently than we do our shoreline zone maps.
mhm,
But also, those account for all wetlands. The ones that are in the shoreline zone are significant wetlands. Ones that take up, I think it's 10 acres or more.
Right.
Continuous significant habitat.
yeah. I think the map you showed us, all it indicated is that
Right, that was just.
the
shoreline zone.
ordinance.
Yeah.
The property is residential and it wasn't considered one of these shoreland wetlands.
For some reason, I was thinking I showed you something on the screen and I was like, I don't
No,
remember
no,
that. No, that was the form.
Yeah,
that I got.
big
Yeah,
one.
with
With the
a,
big.
Yes.
The mother
It was
wall
the big
maps.
shoreline
Yeah.
map.
because, again, when you didn't show up the last. time,
Yes,
we
and I'm
had a
very sorry about
brief
that.
Conversation. And because a lot of your photographs show wetlands, we were trying to sort of verify
Yeah.
the existence of wetlands on your property. So, 。
So if I understand, the application is tabled until a survey or an updated site. map.
So Adam can bring some,
Some more evidence.
yeah, and maybe.
I
what
will
you
do,
can
I'll
Adam,
try and get as concrete of evidence as I
Yeah,
can.
and-
Definitely the survey, if I
Yeah,
can
where
find
the house
that,
is on The
and
property where the garage is, your proposed site, so we can see.
Yeah.
How it relates.
And the actual size it's gonna be and all that good stuff.
Yeah, like a plan for the garage, you know, a rendering of what you propose to build and where you propose to build it. And then it would seem to me that if we got that ahead of time, we could also look at it to see whether with that additional information, it warrants another meeting.
Right. Which it will.
So.
I mean, we have to have another public meeting. Yeah.
Yeah,
So if, I might just ask for some clarity, because we are having the meeting a week later than we usually would have the Board of Appeals meeting. Adam, if the survey does exist, do you think you'd be able to get it within a week? Because.
Yes.
Okay, because that's usually when we'd have the Board of Appeals deadline for this, and that would put us for August 15th. 6:30. First is on Thursday, so I should be able to get all that and send it out that day.
Yeah, so it's this, it's at least two things, right? And any other photos you can, but the actual site plan and where you propose with the exact dimensions and then this, okay.
Okay,
All right.
survey, okay.
Second, I guess you don't need a second for a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Because-
That's good.